do we win if I'm always winning?
Right.
I know all I do is win.
No matter what.
No matter what.
It's essential.
I win when we win.
Go ahead, Dr. Sabrina.
Yeah, right from the beginning, she had a vision. It was a daily elevation for essential living. That's that good intention. All you gotta do is listen. Creating magic during uncertainties be the mission. Dr. Sabrina Jackson, serving God must be a passion. Cause being a better person begins with daily practice. Love is the attitude, that's what we gotta do. Mental Health Mondays on Fox News in Detroit, that's Channel 2. Look us up, baby. Gon' do your research from Cass Tech to Eastern. Yeah, we've been in it for a minute. We've been winning for a minute. It's essential how you living for God. It's essential how you living in your mind. It's essential how you living for freedom. It's essential how you living with the freedom. It's essential. 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 It's essential.
Welcome to another riveting edition of Speaking Life with Dr. Sabrina. I am your host, Dr. Sabrina, the people expert. You know, I say all the time that I help people with people, even if that person is themselves, because too often we think it's somebody else with the problem, and it's really us with the problem. And so I do that in a myriad of ways. I am a clinical therapist by trade. I am a life coach, a business coach, a speaker's coach. I have a system that I created called Essential Colors. Essential Colors is a personality assessment model designed to help you understand how you're wired, but then how to deal with people who are wired differently. I am an author. I have several books. You can go to the website and check those out. I have a nonprofit called Sabrina's Girls, but be on the lookout. I'm about to change the name. I don't know. I'm doing like getting people's input on what the name should be, because I want it to be broader than just girls. So we're changing the name of the nonprofit. I also have a company called the Nonprofit Creators, where I help nonprofits get started and give them the information that they need, things of that nature. And then I have a media umbrella. So under the media umbrella, I do, of course, Fox 2 every Monday. Check me out for Mental Health Mondays. But then I also have been in 14 movies right now. And the latest movie is on Tubi as we speak. Please go and look up Lester, Lester. That is the name of the movie, simply Lester. And you got to watch the whole movie, because I'm at the end of the movie.
All right. That's fine.
Oh, baby. But it is good. And I'm so excited because they've already said that they're going to do a part 2, and that I'm going to have a larger role in part 2. Part 2 is going to start with me. So I'm all excited about that. And so, of course, I do TV, I do radio, I have this podcast, I do movies. I like media. I always say I haven't met a mic that I don't like. I'm just saying. But so can we put up the flyer for Saturday? This coming Saturday, November. We're still in November. November the 9th, there is a conference called 1% Better Speaker. And the conference is to help you if you want to be a speaker, if you think that you have the chops to be a speaker, to understand the nuances that go with this world of being a speaker. So I am one of the featured speakers at the event. It's going to be held at the St. Regis Hotel down on the boulevard off Woodward. It's from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Keon Clinton is the host of the event. It's going to be an amazing time. I will have a table there with books and shirts and merch and all that kind of stuff. But I'm excited because I'm going to be talking about the mental wellness that's necessary when you're a speaker. Because I'm going to tell you something. One of the things that I learned is that when you're on a stage, and you got all these accolades and people are standing up, rah-rah-rahing you, and then you go back home, you have to learn how to walk back into your life and not crash back into your life. And so a lot of times I have been speaking and been places and then come home and be depressed for 2 days. And I didn't get it, because you have to go back into your regular life. And that's a process. Because when you really like all the attention and the adoration and all that kind of stuff, it can be detrimental to your mental wellness. And so we have a caller, even before I get to the guest. So come on, caller. Hey, caller. Hey, caller. They left? They left. I took too long. I was talking. So let me go right to my guest. I say every week that I know incredible people. I am so blessed that I get to have this platform because I get to interview and talk with incredible people. And today is no different. Today we're going to have a conversation. Guess what about? Y'all know what's happening tomorrow. It's the election. So we're going to be talking a little politics today about the differences that are out here in this land of election time and who we're voting for and who we like and who we don't like, all of that kind of stuff. And so I have 3 guests here today. The first guest is like family to me. We're just like family. We go back a long, long way. Mason Holliday. Mason Holliday.
All right.
Is the executive director of a nonprofit. He also has been an art instructor.
Absolutely.
All the way in Cairo, Egypt.
Cairo, Egypt.
What? Oh my God. How long were you in Cairo?
4 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 4 years at the American University of Cairo. My oldest daughter was born there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I told you, incredible people. I told you. And so then we have Hazel. Hazel, what's your last name?
Turner.
Hazel Turner, who is a nurse by trade.
39 years.
39 years as a nurse. And she's a mother of
3.
A mother of 3, but she also has interest in this political landscape. And specifically when we talk about women's reproductive health and choice and things of that nature. Welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Wonderful to have you here. So you know I forgot your first name.
Thomas Randolph.
Yeah.
Okay, so Thomas Randolph is an attorney.
Yes, he is.
But can I say he's an ambulance chaser?
No.
I can't say that.
No, you
I can't say that.
No, can't say that.
That's what I thought they said about injury attorney.
Some people call us that. Some people
call us
okay.
that. Okay. It's all in fun. But he is an attorney, and he specifically works with injury. He's an injury attorney.
Absolutely.
He's the father of 3 children.
Yes, I am.
And political? You like to talk politics?
Oh, yeah, I discuss politics. I'm an independent.
You're independent?
Absolutely.
Okay. And so what does that really mean?
That means that there are 2 gangs.
It's 2 gangs. It's the red gang and the blue gang.
That's
okay,
right.
Come on.
Yeah, and I stand on neutral ground.
You stand on neutral ground.
I pledge allegiance to neither one.
But then when you vote, do you vote independent?
Well,
or do you vote whichever way the wind blows for you?
It depends on the candidate and the issue.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't vote straight party ticket.
Okay.
The issues are paramount. It's not personality.
Say it again. I said that today.
It's not party. I look at the issues that are important to me, to my family, and to my community, and I vote accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. And so, so let me just start. I have a question since we are a day away from this massive election. So even though you say that you're independent and we have these 2 gangs, the bulk of the people are going to vote either red or blue. Am I correct in thinking that? And so when we see the differences in the major dichotomy that is happening, what do you think we should do when we get on the other side of tomorrow and if our candidate loses?
That's a great question. And I think that it's important now for people to make a determination that it's not the end of the world if your candidate loses. Okay, and there will be calls to action, whether it's by Trump or whether it's by the Democrats, to be up in arms about a result that they may not like. And I think we all have a responsibility to resist the temptation, because there's going to be a call to chaos.
Absolute call to chaos. Absolute call to chaos.
And the people who calling for chaos are not going to participate in the chaos.
They're calling for it, but they're going to sit back. They're going to throw the rock and hide their hands.
So what people do you think are going to participate?
I think it's the grassroots people. The grassroots people are going to be called to participate in the chaos, just like we saw, for example, on January 6th.
Well, yeah, let's go.
You didn't see the party leaders in participating in the chaos. You saw the grassroots people, the BLM riots and Antifa riots in 2020. The people at the top, they didn't participate, but a lot of them encouraged it, quietly or loudly. They encouraged the civil unrest, as it was called. So other people call it riots.
Yeah, well, people who were influenced, correct?
Right, exactly.
Who did the influencing?
I think the people at the top, the decision makers, the money makers, the influencers. Yeah.
Which specifically?
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, so you wouldn't say that Trump kind of
fanned the flames.
It wasn't his agenda.
Well, what did he say?
Well, he had a whole campaign about stop the steal, and he refused to concede that he'd lost, and he refused to address the crowd, and had some negative things to say about his vice president not doing the things that he liked him to do at that particular time. Who now his own vice president doesn't even support him. So, I mean,
I got to be honest with you.
Yes,
I wasn't happy with the election results of 2020. And so I stopped.
What's that noise? I'm so sorry. That's okay.
My brother is trying to reach you.
Your brother. Hey, brother. That's what happens on live podcasting, y'all.
Yeah, so when January 2021 came around, I wasn't watching the news because United States had just elected a cadaver to be president. Mm-hmm. He wasn't. It was clear to me at that time he didn't have the wherewithal to be the leader.
About Biden.
Yeah, I'm talking about Joseph Biden.
Okay, thank you. A cadaver. Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so can I just ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Why is it okay for us to be so negative about people? I just don't understand why it's okay to call people out of their names. If we want to talk about a person, just say their name. We don't have to call them something derogatory, because I don't have anything derogatory to say about anybody. Okay. But it's amazing to me that we feel so comfortable to say that he's a cadaver. And he's not a cadaver. He is a man that is still breathing and walking and still in the land of the living for us. But he may not be as astute or all of those things, but he still is a human.
Well, I was speaking euphemistically, but I was explaining why I wasn't happy that he didn't have the faculties. Okay. It wasn't about his ideas. Okay. It wasn't about his policies, that he didn't present as a strong leader with the mental capability and the cognitive capability to be the president of the United States with all of the enemies and the challenges that we have. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't following the day-to-day when it came to January 6th. And so after it occurred, I had to go back and look and see what happened and see who said what. Mm-hmm. Okay? And I did not hear from Donald Trump a call to violence on January 6th. And people say, well, you kind of implied or you led the charge or you hinted it. If you're going to attribute to somebody acts of violence, tell me what they said. And I challenge anybody to do it.
Okay, so let's go to the beginning as far as Donald Trump is concerned. During his rallies when he ran the first time on two platforms to build a wall and to repeal Obamacare as soon as he got into office, he also told people at his rallies, hey, I'll pay your legal fees if somebody who's not a supporter comes in and acts up. I'll pay. If you take them outside and wax them over, I'll pay for your legal fees. That incites violence. He has a whole narrative of violence to the degree that people right now are afraid to put out lawn signs because of the fear. I believe the man to be a fear monger. I think he runs on that platform. So that's one thing right there in terms of what he incited within just his own rallies.
Can I say, like, the thing that I don't even want to go all the way back to January 6th. I just want to go to last week.
Yes.
Last week when he was talking about, is that Liz Cheney?
Yes.
And he said that she should be put in front of a firing squad, and that the barrels
should be
nine barrels. How's she gonna feel when 9 barrels are staring her in the face? Now, I understood the analogy that he was making. I really did. I understood that, because I think that his concern is if that a woman is leading our country, a woman is not going to be as strong of a leader when it's faced with opposition from other countries and, standing to go to war and things of that nature. However, is it okay for the person who is possibly going to be the leader to say that anybody, especially on your own ground,
and see,
should be put in front of a firing squad? That incites violence.
Well, just Dr. Sabrina,
yes.
I disagree with what you said is the analogy. In context, what Donald Trump said is that a person who's a war hawk, like Elizabeth Cheney, we all know who her father is, Dick Cheney, who led the charge to go into Iraq to search for weapons of mass destruction that did not exist, that cost the United States trillions of dollars and cost millions of lives.
Okay, but why is that on her?
Because she stands in the same mold as her father. She benefited financially along with her father.
Okay, so now I'm going to say that.
With that war. But Donald Trump's point.
Okay.
Donald Trump's point was, if you're going to be a war hawk and call for the United States to be called into war, and our young boys and our young girls are going to face harm in front of enemy guns, instead of sitting in your comfortable mansion in Virginia or Maryland, wherever the heck you live, you go to the war and fight.
That's
if you want to be
interesting.
You be the war hawk. So he wasn't talking. It wasn't a firing squad. It was facing the enemy overseas in the war zone.
Okay, but you do realize that there are people who don't even think that deep. And it's people that don't think that deep that are listening to that, and all they hear is firing squad. All they hear, all they hear are the.
But he did. That's what he said.
That's what he said.
He didn't say firing squad.
People went into the Capitol to hang Nancy Pelosi
and Mike Pence.
Okay, and no one saw any effort on Donald Trump's behalf. When we talk, here's one of my favorite quotes, and it's funny for me to cite or quote Abraham Lincoln, and I do often. I try to do it as much as I can, because we talk about him being a strong leader or a woman not being a strong leader, and we in that respect. But Lincoln said, and I'll paraphrase because he said men, but people can withstand much adversity. But to truly gauge a person's character, give them power. And I think anyone who calls to be a dictator, he's already shown an abuse of power to begin with. January 6th is a great example. But I think he's already shown his respect or lack thereof of women when you talk about grabbing vaginas, how can you put trust into someone who has such a lack of character? What does he do with that power? Especially when you talk about the number one issue to me in this whole campaign doesn't get talked about enough, and that is the immunity for police. When you have, and you and I have talked about this actually, immunity to police, who can now search and see, search you whenever they want, or get off for putting their knee on your neck or shooting you in the back of the head at a traffic stop. That scares the everlasting life out of me on my behalf and for my children, for my community as a whole. That kind of power, to me, is an absolute abuse of power. And the lack thereof of character, I think he's the poster child for. So there's fear on my side. And I talked to a friend a few days ago, and we talked about not having fear. And I agree. We were built, if we're God-fearing people, built for faith and not for fear. Okay? But you can't sit back after seeing what has happened and the climate of fear that exists right now and not have your eyebrow up moving forward.
So let me ask this question and I really want to get the nurse's vantage point on this whole thing about reproductive health and that women, and I've been seeing these commercials. I saw a commercial, I think it was this morning, about a woman who said that when she had a miscarriage, she needed to have a DNC. A DNC is what they do when you have a miscarriage. And so since this law has been changed, there have been women who have bled out because doctors did not feel they had the right to perform the type of medical attention that would keep a woman alive who has since lost a child or maybe have a health challenge because of the pregnancy. What say you on this?
Oh, wow. There's a lot of misinformation out there among a lot of people. Since the turn of Roe versus Wade, the New England Journal of Medicine has statistics on the death rates, the mortality rates that have increased approximately 3%. Now, 3% may not sound like much, but it is. With the reproductive rights, I'm very concerned about it because abortion rights, people feel that women are using abortions for just unwanted pregnancies, and that's so far from being true. Sometimes it's necessary to have medical abortions, which may be the answer to several things. Preeclampsia. We have ectopic pregnancies.
I had one of those. The baby was in the tube.
Yes,
it did not make it to the. And so I actually lost that tube.
Were you in pain?
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yes, I was in pain. And the other thing is that some of the people said, "Oh, she can't be in that much pain."
Exactly.
How the heck you know how much pain I'm in?
Exactly.
I even had that experience when I had my son. I was in so much pain when I was having the contractions, and the lady says, "Oh, she's not in that much pain." How you know how much pain I'm in? Until they put the monitors on me, and then the lady joked and says, "Wow, it's going off the thing." I told you I was in pain. And so it's something to be said in our healthcare arena that for some reason black women are thought to be able to withstand more pain than other races. And that's been my experience.
Now, there is definitely, from my experience as a nurse who's worked ER, I've worked ICU, I've worked thoracic surgery, I've worked psych, I've worked different areas. There is definitely a disparity in our healthcare system. And with this abortion rights, the lower socioeconomic group of women, the Hispanics, the blacks, the poor people in the community, those women are the ones that are going to be affected tremendously. We have sometimes to have a abortion or a termination of pregnancy or what they call a DNC based on some people may have genetic abnormalities in the baby. Sometimes there's blood clot formation. And I know you said the ectopic pregnancy where the egg is united with the sperm outside of the uterus and it cannot grow. A lot of pregnancies can cause death.
This is the thing, though. I really feel like people who don't have a specialty or even information about a thing, why do you get to make the determination about that thing? So, men will never get pregnant.
Really?
Never. And because a man...
That's not what we're told today. We're told that men can get pregnant.
Don't believe it.
That's what they tell us.
That's a whole nother talk show. That's a whole nother show. But women...
Okay, all right. I digress.
You know, women have so many issues when it comes to pregnancy. And when it comes to... I mean, you know, you have people that have been raped, and from the rape, they get pregnant. And so... if that person decides that I don't want to have this baby, that's a trigger for me, one, because I was raped when it happened, and everybody's choice is different. Because I have a friend, one of my closest friends, that he himself was the product of a rape. but his mother, had him. But his relationship with his mother was extremely strained because the mother had issues because she had been raped. And so she didn't, mental health and getting counseling and all that kind of stuff. So I see years of difficulties that might not have been there, but I absolutely am not the person to make that decision. So it's amazing to me how people feel that they have the right to tell somebody else what they should do with their body.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. There's no way I would tell or even suggest to any woman, young or young or old, that they should have a child from that experience. At the end of the day, whether Roe v. Wade or you have to go to another state, if it's state bound, a person's going to do what they choose to do at the end of the day, somehow, some way. Okay, and wouldn't we hate to see it go back to the days of something that it's hard to say, a coat hanger, going to somebody down the street and in the back alley to perform that. I do not support abortion as a means of contraceptive, which it seems like a whole generation of people tend to look at it as. But I couldn't see standing in any way against someone who is in a situation like that.
I think people are very ill-informed. To me, it's almost like our government wants to practice medicine. Our government wants to practice medicine. They have no medical degree. They have no knowledge of the anatomy of the human body. Also, I'd like to also mention that not only is abortion rights affecting women, but the availability and the accessibility of birth control. A lot of people don't know that birth control pills can be prescribed for menstrual cramping, severe menstrual cramping, and a lot of other gynecological issues. As a result of what's going on, what you're seeing is doctors who are specializing in GYN, OB, they're going to be hard to find. So another point I want to make, one of our politicians kind of cracked a joke about, women over 50, we don't have nothing to worry about. Well, I'm over 50, okay, and I still need a GYN doctor. So
okay, yeah, because you still got a kitty cat.
Right, yeah. I may not be able to get pregnant, thank God.
Hallelujah.
Yes. Okay. But I still need an experienced GYN doctor, and this is causing a lot of doctors to not practice. What you're doing is you're taking their medical license away from them, where they cannot practice safe medical delivery of care to their patients. So one person asked me about, doesn't the doctor take an oath? And is the government infringing on that oath? Mm-hmm. Can the doctor actually sue the state in the event that he or she is presented with the emergency case where a woman requires a DNC, which slashes termination of pregnancy or whatever? So last night I read the oath, the Hippocratic Oath, and it has no legal binding. Since you are a lawyer, can you expand on that?
The Hippocratic Oath?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a physician either, but there are laws that govern. There are laws that govern how doctors have to operate, and of course, you have civil law, which says that if a doctor operates outside of the standard of care. Mm-hmm. In medicine, then they can be sued for operating outside of that standard of care. So there are rules and policies, regulations that govern what doctors do. When it goes to the point of the subject of this podcast is how to become politically educated, I think abortion is an issue that people should vote upon if it's important to them, just like immigration, just like law enforcement, qualified immunity. It could be taxes. Or gun control. So I think it's impinging upon every voter to make a list of the issues that are important to you.
Absolutely.
And then look at the candidates that are available and vote based upon the issues that are important to you.
So me asking you then, as an independent, you and I, this is prompted you and I to do this, in fact. Right. We asked each other the same question. Neither one of us got back to it because we chose to do it here. So you as an independent, with no independent candidate, now you're faced with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Which way do you see yourself voting for, on that Democratic or that Republican ticket?
And just let me clarify. When I say I'm independent, doesn't mean I'm a part of it, the independent party. It means I have no allegiance to any party. Mm-hmm. Okay. I vote based upon issues
that are important to you.
Right, exactly.
Which leads you to which candidate at this point?
Well, looking at the issues, let me just say I look at the issues and I'm going to vote based upon the issues. Everybody's vote, how they vote, is their own personal decision. Mm-hmm. But the issues that are important to me, abortion is not at the top of my list.
Okay.
You know, to some men it is. Mm-hmm. Okay, but taxes are important. United States is on the cusp of being involved in World War III. You have North Korean troops fighting in Ukraine. You have all of Western Europe united against Russia. The sides are lining up. The Middle East is aflame. And we have a president who is AWOL. I don't think anybody has any confidence that he knows what's going on. And it's a scary time. Kamala Harris, the vice president, is out campaigning.
I disagree with you.
She's distracted. I think it's a very dangerous time. So that's an issue that's important to me. So I look at the issues. Gun control is important to me. I am a fan of the Second Amendment. Yes, I am. And for good reason, because I'm from Detroit, where Dr. Ocean Sweet, living in Detroit, was almost gunned down as he was in his own house. Mm-hmm. And then you have a group of politicians telling me that there's certain guns that I legally own I shouldn't have. Why? And I've never harmed anybody with my firearm. So these are issues that are important to me, and I'm going to vote based upon those issues, and I have no shame about it. Okay?
Well, good. Yeah. And see, now I'm going to piggyback the whole gun reform and gun violence. I told you know about it. 2 years straight. I called the mayor's office. I called the chief of police. 2 years straight petitioning for metal detectors in downtown Detroit. Okay? Didn't hear anything back, but I didn't stop calling. Okay, we had a rash a couple of summers ago, and Mary Waters got the credit for now there being...
she took your idea?
You know what? I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. But, she got credit for that. And it's okay because what it did was it made an impact. All right? And I followed up with that in terms of what's going on down in the Eastern Market and Tailgate. And gun people who are staunch Second Amendment people found it so over the top, like their rights were being violated. If you are a licensed gun carrier, you can take it almost anywhere. There's specific places that you cannot, and you know those places. And you don't fuss about it. You don't take it into the movie theater. You don't take it to the bar. You don't take it into the airport. And you don't fuss about it. So if you have the opportunity to have your gun and you go downtown to an event as a licensed carrier and you have to walk through a metal detector, how does that infringe upon your amendment right? It does not. You're still okay, but it keeps those who are not away. Okay? It's a powerful tool, but it seems to get lost in the sauce because people who love their guns so much think it's all somehow a violation of their rights, and it completely is not.
May I ask a question? In regards to gun control, okay, who needs a weapon that can fire 50 rounds?
Somebody facing 51 enemies. No, I'm just kidding.
Who needs a gun that can fire off 50, 100 rounds? Now, when we talk about gun control, I am not against anyone being able to defend their home, their belongings, their personal. I don't think the government is trying to remove guns away from each individual. But who needs a weapon in their home or walking up and down the street that can shoot 50 rounds and kill 150 people?
Well, when you talk about fundamental rights...
Should we have some limitations on who has weapons that they use in war? Do we need those type of weapons on the streets?
Well, pistols are used in war. Shotguns are used in war, believe it or not.
They can't fire 100-some rounds.
Rifles are used in war. An AR-15 or an AK-47 I would argue, is not exclusively a weapon of war. They are also sporting rifles, but fundamental rights are fundamental for a reason. That means that it is a God-given right. Our rights don't stem from the government or some politician telling us that we're going to grant you a right. We have a right to self-defense. And I disagree with you that politicians don't want to take our guns away. Hillary Clinton said we should have, and I believe Kamala Harris has said we should have Australian-style gun control, which in Australia, you don't have a right to have a gun. When they passed gun control, they took people's guns away from them.
Well, you know what?
And do you see the type of violence in Australia that you see here?
No, you don't.
So I would say this is the thing, is that sometimes we need to look at other places that don't have, because it's amazing, because to me the violence in the United States is that of
okay, Corral.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, like when the MSU shooting happened, and all these mass.
It's two different types.
To me, if the mass murderer who's going to go and shoot up
a school
or all that movie theater or whatever, if they just didn't have the gun. If they didn't have that gun,
exactly,
they couldn't do that.
Well, let me give you an interesting statistic.
They couldn't do that.
Let me give you an interesting statistic. I believe it was in the early 2000s that a shooter at Virginia Tech University shot more than 20 people, killed them. He had a pistol. That was a Glock. Another statistic for you. Do you know that more than 90% of gun deaths, and I'm talking about murders, are committed with pistols? So if there was a law passed that the government can go and take all of the long guns, AR-15s, what quote unquote assault rifles, that means that more than 90% of the gun murders that occur will still occur. What do you think those politicians who call for gun confiscation will do then? They say, oh, well, we tried and we took all the rifles. We still have all these guns. What are they going to come for next? They're going to come for the gun that somebody's deceased husband left, the gun that you have under the 38 snub nose that you have locked up in your closet. Those are next. It's just incremental. So you have to understand, it's important for voters to be informed about guns, and understand how they operate and the type of guns that people have. There's fundamentally no difference between a long gun, an AK-47, or a pistol, a Glock, in how they operate. And they can shoot just as fast, and they're just as deadly.
I had, the other day, Chaldean gentleman, he says to me that I had on my pin that I voted. And he said, I hope you voted for Trump. I said, oh, why? And he said, well, that's my president. I said, okay, and why? He said, because I trust and support everything that comes out of his mouth. I said, wow, that's deep. Because, remember, I lived in Egypt, so I understand how they view women, and how they view a lot of things, having lived over in that area of the world. And he went on to the degree that if Trump didn't win, he would leave the country.
There's a lot of people saying that.
And how, I just want to think how immature that is for people to say it in the first place, because the likelihood of that happening ain't going to happen. And if you leave, you're going to be on the first thing trying to get back here, living over.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
The liberties and freedoms that we have, you're not going to find in other places. So I agree with you on that point. But I think that at the end of the day, education is important, but it's also the ability to disagree agreeably.
Absolutely.
I don't have to hate you because we don't see things
the same way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And everybody's experiences are different. Absolutely. So if I've had an experience with Trump, because I don't know how many people in the room have met him, but I have.
Ooh, okay.
I've been in a room with him. I've been invited to. I went to the Trump Towers because I'm a speaker. That's what I do. I'm a speaker, and when people call me to speak, they don't say, "Well, do you support Republicans or Democrats?" I've never had that question. They're just calling me for what my expertise is. And if you call me for my expertise and I have the availability and you have the money, I'm coming. So I went because I am a person that helps people with team building. And so that's what I was called to do, and that's what I did. But it was interesting because in that room, there were some questions that were asked that as I listened personally to the answer, I did not agree with them. And I was one of the few women in the room, and the little chit chat that I hear men say about women makes my stomach turn. It just does. And so, because I get my one vote, I get to vote the way that I choose to. But I also very rarely get into a debate with people, because oftentimes my experience is different than those that haven't sat in the room. I sat at the table. I've been in the room, and so my vantage point is different than someone who hasn't had the direct conversation. And so I very rarely share that with people, because I know how small-minded people are. They'll go, well, if you went and took his money, then that means this, and that's a limited way of thinking. But I have a right as a big old grown woman to go where I want, when I want, for whatever reasons I want, and then I make my decisions. Like, I remember when Trump came here and went over to Wayne T's church, and people were so mad at Wayne T.
I was mad at the last guy. You know what I called him, but I'm not going to say it on the podcast. They were just mad at him. And I know Wayne T. Wayne T is a good, his whole family. I know them well. And one of the things that he said before he reached out and took the call from Trump, he said he prayed about it. Mm-hmm. He says that as a man of God, if the Lord told me to pray for him, that's what I'm going to do. Now, I might not agree with everything that he says, but if God told me to pray for him, that's what I'm going to do. And so for me, all the people who say they Christians, and you mad at him because he prayed with the man? Because Trump never spoke at his church. He didn't have words. He was just there, and he was prayed for. So I'm confused. Because as people, my humanity says, yes, even if I don't agree with you, you need my prayer much more than you need my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I pray much more than I give my opinion. Mm-hmm. And even in this political landscape, I can offer something that's bigger than my opinion.
To your point, I remember attending church, Reverend Holly's church, when Trump got in. I think it was his first year. And everyone, you know what the climate was, but he did tell his congregation, not verbatim, but you at least have to meet at the table and talk and discuss. So you just don't count your opponents out. You just don't disagree with them because you don't see their point. Because our political climate and our democracy, it's all about negotiation.
That's such an important point. And Dr. Sabrina, I appreciate you making it as well. I remember there was a brother who had a restaurant and a catering
Don Studvid. I know him well.
On Livernois?
I know him well. I remember. I know him well. Him and his wife are very good friends of mine.
And let me know if I get this story wrong, but it was during Trump's first campaign.
Yes.
And Donald Trump Jr. asked for catering. This brother catered the event. He wasn't involved in any politics.
None.
He just cooked food. That's what he does. People on social media called for a boycott of this man's business, ran him out of business because he cooked food for somebody with the last name of Trump. That's how small it enraged me, because I know how hard it is as a small business person myself to begin and to run a small business.
And he was doing well. The company was doing his food is still some of the best I've ever had in my life.
And so we hear this narrative. You can't normalize the opponent. You can't talk to them.
Right.
You can't associate with them, or else you're persona non grata. You will be canceled.
But can I just add this? The other thing I think that makes that difficult is that even when we talk about the polarization of the two climates or the two sides, if I can not call you out your name, if I don't have to say something belittling about you, but just listen to you, to me, that helps to normalize that it's a person and not just their politics. And so I think that we have gone way too far at the negative things we say about other people, because at the end of the day, they're still people. I don't want Trump to get shot, like when they shot at him or whatever. I'm not happy about that.
Both Republicans, by the way. And you're talking about coming across the aisle. Kamala Harris is talking about coming across the aisle, and her administration being that of both parties.
Both parties, yeah.
Okay? Something that has not been done. I thought if Barack Obama had brought on Colin Powell, man, it would have been just an unbelievable dream. Talk about dream team. But with what she's talking about now, it is a very proactive, very, very proactive thing that I think it can merge and bridge gaps. That was your acronym this morning, bridge.
It was, thank you.
Okay, well, there it is.
That's what we need to do. We need to bridge. Thank you, Mason.
But you're welcome. So, but you know, I want to chime in real quick on this backlash. We talked about this as well, that Barack got for what people want to say is chastising them. You know, I'm sick of it, and I'll say it, and I support it, and I say, shut up. Pull your pants up. The first thing you're going to do when stuff hits the fan is support. In terms of support, is run to a black woman. When Bill Cosby said similar things years ago and said, hey, black men, come on, let's step up. Everybody gave him the fucks. Everybody has given all this backlash to Barack. Say it again. Black men, step up.
Step up and do what?
Step up and have the same support for black women that black women have had from the beginning of time.
For black men.
Any black woman? What if they disagree with her ideas? Why is it based upon race and gender?
Well, because
what about what's in her head and comes out of her mouth? Isn't that more important than her skin color?
So do you agree with anything that Kamala represents? Do you agree with anything?
As far as her policies, I would have to think hard. Nothing comes from. She hasn't.
So you don't think that offering a seat at the table to your opponent is a worthwhile attribute to bridge?
I don't think that's exclusive to her. You look at who did Van Jones, the first Trump presidency, the First Step Act. Okay, that freed thousands of black male offenders who were convicted for drugs. Van Jones went to Donald Trump, a member of the opposite party. Van Jones is daggone near communist. And he went to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump sat down with him. And Donald Trump tells the story how he went to a Republican senator who was holding it up and had to call in favors because Van Jones came in and had the courage to come in and talk to him. And Trump called in a favor. I said, I want you to help this man pass that bill. Okay, so it's not about skin color; it's about the policy.
It most certainly is, because I think he's pandering in that respect.
And that's a cheat code to call on black people to
he
vote.
Just said, "I love black people," or "I love black men."
To vote based upon race, without regard to policy, I think is short-sighted. And how is that different than calling on white people to vote for a candidate just because they're white?
Well, it's the same thing as that. Why hasn't no white candidate ever been presented with the option or the idea of reparations? Only person that said something about it was Trump at one point. He said he found it interesting and that it would probably never happen. But black candidates right off the rip are asked about reparations as if they're going to say, hey, yeah, I'm going to do, as soon as I get in, I'm going to give us reparations, and think that they're actually going to get in. Which brings me to this point. People talk about all the time, this guy gets on TV and he says, I've done more for black people than any president other than Lincoln. And so, I made sure I looked that up. So what we have here is not a failure to communicate, but come on, let's get this here. Two actual Republicans in the list of presidents that have actually made some really cool things, and that would be, of course, Abraham Lincoln for the freeing of slaves, and Grant. Okay, Grant, he came in and he created the Department of Justice. He went after and prosecuted the Klan. But then everybody who comes after that, and that was 1887. That a Republican has done anything to that magnitude. Since then, you have, of course, Truman. You had Roosevelt. Okay, You got Truman. You have LBJ, who brought in the Civil Rights Act. The Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. You got. Who else do we
They
have?
are Republicans. You're talking about just any president.
Any president. So the disparity here is two Republicans over the course of time, and now we've got like 5, 6 Democrats. When Donald Trump stands up and says he's done the most for black people.
Well, that's a bombastic statement. I mean, Trump is prone to making extraordinary statements.
Is extraordinary statements equal lies?
Let's call him lies.
Okay. I was just asking.
He's a lawyer now. He's a lawyer.
I challenge anybody to name a president who hasn't lied.
Oh, I agree. Everybody lied. I don't know a person.
And people talk about and people talk about the economy. The economy. There's only been 3 presidents that ever balanced the budget, the deficit, and that was Andrew Jackson, LBJ, and Bill Clinton.
But that's not our problem. Well, that is a problem.
But that's what people holler all the time. Well, it's going to be the economy.
Just stand in the line. Check out line in Kroger. They're not arguing about the deficit. They're arguing about the high price of bread and eggs. And economists forecast before that Orwellian named Inflation Reduction Act was passed that if you pass this, it will increase inflation. And that's exactly what happened. And black people and poor people are suffering because Kamala Harris made the tie-breaking vote to pass that bill. And it was foreseeable and it was preventable. And that's why a lot of black people are suffering today. I was listening on the way here. I was listening to the news. This last thing. That what the average age of a home buyer is right now because of these high interest rates?
What?
56. So that means that, and they got their money.
Young families are not. They're not able to do what they
because
do.
interest rates are 7%. I refinance. My interest rate is 2%. You don't have a chance if you're a young home buyer with these rates.
Well, it's very interesting when I hear all these statistics and then I look at my own life, because between my son, who's 31 and just got married on September 22nd, bought a new home.
Right.
And he has a better interest rate than I had. I think it's just being educated about finances and educated about how you stack your money and how you prioritize and just all of that. My son's degree is in business, and he reminds me all the time. He says, my degree is in business, your degree is in psychology. So I handle money very differently than you do. That's just the truth. But I think that every individual household has their own issues that they're dealing with. So when you talk about the line at Kroger's, I don't do grocery shopping, so I don't. That's not an issue for me.
I think what's interesting now is what's going on. There's a dichotomy between
the haves and the have-nots.
Yes.
Okay.
And the 60s.
And Trump's is a have.
They call it the bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie.
That's right.
The bourgeois Negroes. I don't mean that as a put down because I would be considered within that class. When I go to the grocery store, I don't have to check my account before I check out at the cashier. It's no problem. My kids don't have to worry about that. But there's a whole class of people, which is most people, who they put $5 in the tank at a time.
So, but do you think that those people are the people that Trump is looking to assist and make life better for them, or is it that he's making life better for people who are more like him?
Do you remember the comment that he made that caused such an uproar when he talked about black jobs?
Oh, yeah.
Y'all remember that?
Oh my God, yes.
But what that stemmed from is that when you have unchecked immigration at the southern border, you have generally low-skilled, quote-unquote, that's the term they use, workers come in. And so who's competing with those new immigrants for jobs are the low educated.
It's a condescending.
Who live here.
It was a condescending.
Okay, but don't get caught up on the terms. Understand the larger point that if you're an undereducated black person who may just have a high school diploma or less, the people that you're competing with for those jobs, for those manual labor jobs, are just come across the border and they're willing to do it at half the rate that you're willing to do it for. So you're hurting those people. So those. It's interesting to me as I listen to listen to people, quote unquote, on the streets. I don't mean that in a derogatory term. They are more likely to vote for Donald Trump, and I think the numbers are bearing that out. Because now
I don't believe the numbers.
Well, we'll see. We'll find out tomorrow that black males are voting for Donald Trump in higher numbers than any other Republican in recent history. So, for the exact same reason that I
don't believe that.
Okay.
I don't believe that.
We don't have to debate it. Let's find out tomorrow.
We will find out.
Maybe Dr. Sabrina will have
a couple days tomorrow. But see, I think it's a very condescending attitude that Trump and people who think like Trump have exuded with, you're an attorney. That's a black job. You're a black man. That's a black job. Kamala Harris is a vice president of the United States. That is a black job. So to limit it to migrant workers coming over there pushing a broom, or you know what I'm saying? It's just the whole idea behind it continues that's backwards.
I will
that
say
takes
this,
us back.
but
If that's what you want to make America great.
Okay, so this is the thing about the whole making America great again. Mm-hmm. When
was America great?
Yeah, when in his mind,
Who?
Trump.
For who?
Yeah, who was it? Who was it great for? Because that's the thing for me. As I hear him say, we want to take things back. Back to when? Back to when, as a black woman, I did not have the rights that I have. As a black woman, if I wanted to have an abortion, I couldn't now. If I wanted to have an abortion, I had to go and get somebody off the... When was it great, and who was it great for? Because as I look at my history for my ancestors, the Jim Crow time, the time of slave, those weren't great times for my people.
We were born in 64.
So
we were born in that time.
I was born in 66. It wasn't great.
I was born and I didn't have, born without the legal right to vote.
So it's interesting of what we going back to.
Well, that's a fair point. And I think we need to get away from sloganeering. Let's focus on, let's get away from personality. Let's get away from slogans. Let's get away from appearance. How somebody laughs.
No, I don't care about none of that. But the thing
policies
is,
are important.
If you are saying that, like one of the things he says for people, if I win, you're not going to have to worry about voting anymore. What does that mean?
Right.
He never explains that.
What does that mean that we won't have to worry about voting anymore? Are you going to take my right to vote away? Are you going to change the whole system that comes to voting? Because the one thing I pay attention to is that I went to civics and I know how government works. Mm-hmm. So people keep saying, well, he won't be able to do all that. No. If there's 3 forms of government, mm-hmm. the presidential office,
the legislative, the judicial, and executive,
legislative, and the judicial.
Do you think
if he can get all 3 of them to line up and change things the way that he wants to change, it don't matter what I say, because I'm not going to have a vote in that, because I'm not a part of the legislature, I'm not a part of the Supreme Court, and I'm not a part of the executive branch. So when I look at things, I'm looking at what things are coming in the future that can possibly impact the way I live my life. And I am concerned about that.
You're concerned about he's a threat to democracy.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, let's take the Supreme Court. I think there's one party who's openly threatened to stack the Supreme Court and change it from 9 members to 12 or 15 members. I think that's the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. There's one party who's thinking about getting rid of the Electoral College, which has been in place and changing things. Who is that? I don't think it's Republicans. I think it's the Democrats.
But you know why I think it's it's one thing to stack a government, mm-hmm. but it's another thing to completely change a government. So mm-hmm. if we change the fact that, because I believe that the things that are going to happen are silently in place.
Yeah,
I ain't got to say it, because once I get in it, I can do what I want to do. And so the piece about him doing whatever, and I can say it here because this is a podcast, the fuck he wants to do is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, he's already done it. He showed you. He put how many Supreme Court justices in place so that he can have...
He got it stacked, baby.
He's stacked.
He got it stacked.
He followed the process. I don't understand what the problem is.
I know he's followed the process.
So then what's the problem with the Democrats doing the same thing?
Followed the process.
What, adding to 4 or 5 seats? Getting rid of the filibuster. Who's threatening to get rid of the filibuster? That's not Republicans, that's Democrats. Do you know how big of a change that is to Congress to get rid of the filibuster, which secures minority rights in the Senate?
Do you know how big a change it is?
Hold on. Because my time is up. Yeah, we just all up. We over. It's over. They done ended the show with me cussing, and I'm not a cusser. I want to thank my guests. This was a nice, robust discussion. I love it. I love a good debate. I really do. It's one of my favorite things. Thank you, Mason, for calling and inviting this topic. It was good.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And so you all can, when we get off, you all can take it and post it on your things and get it out there and have people weigh in, all of that. But we definitely will do something, Chantel, to set something when we come back after the election on tomorrow.
And I just really want everybody to know that we didn't come here to beat up on Thomas. I want you to have somebody with you next time.
No.
It's all.
No, we didn't beat up on him.
I think we beat up on him.
I love him.
As I close, as I do every week, I just want you to make sure that as you move through your week this week, that you speak life to your life. Say something positive to you about you. Especially this week, we need to build a bridge between those we agree with and those we don't. I'll see you next week.
How do we win if I'm always winning?
Right.
I know all I do is win.
No matter what.
No matter what.
It's essential.
I win when we win.
Go ahead, Dr. Sabrina.
Yeah, right from the beginning, she had a vision. It was a daily elevation for essential living. That's that good intention. All you gotta do is listen. Creating magic during uncertainties be the mission. Dr. Sabrina Jackson, serving God must be a passion. Cause being a better person begins with daily practice. Love is the attitude, that's what we gotta do. Mental Health Mondays on Fox News in Detroit, that's Channel 2. Look us up, baby. Gon' do your research from Cass Tech to Eastern. Yeah, we been in it for a minute. We been winning.